100 bees. And we're looking for bees that are in the brood nest because the varroa is usually under these cappings. And they also, which Zachary at MSU just published a study last week, that they can actually smell nurse bees and they preferentially pick nurse bees. So we're going to try to find nurse bees, which is why we're going on the brood nest. And this is a perfect frame because we've got a wide span of different types of brood. So what we do is we get our 300 bees and then we put them in this jar, which has just 8-inch hardware or size 8 hardware cloth as a lid. And then we add some powdered sugar on the top and we cover the bees. And then we roll them, which heats them up. They get a little annoyed, they get hot. We set them in the shade for 2 minutes and that makes the varroa mites fall off of them. Because like if you look, you probably can't see any varroa. And the saying is if you can see them on the bees, then they're too far gone. So that's the thing, is it affects, the better the brood pattern is, the bigger the hive, the more mites are probably in there. Which is, it's really counterintuitive, but that is always the case.
Okay, there's about 30 people here. Everybody grab 10 bees.
So, yeah, exactly, hands on.
Hands on.
All right, so then these sit, the mites fall off when they get heated, and the powdered sugar prevents them from getting back on. It allows them not to actually climb back on. And then we have our lid on, and this is a well-used kit, so it's very sticky. And we're gonna shake, shake, shake with that on. Shake, shake, shake like a powdered sugar. Get all the sugar out, get all the mites out, the bees stay in here. They do not enjoy it. Nobody enjoys this process. You shake it hard enough that you see an antenna and a leg come off sometimes. It makes you feel bad, but what will make you feel worse is when you kill your whole colony because you don't take care of your varroa problem. So you do harass 300 bees, but it works out better for everybody in the end. So you shake, and then you use a little water, and we'll dissolve the sugar, and that'll allow us to count how many varroa mites in there. Right now, and the threshold does change, but right now we say if you're below 3%, then you're probably in pretty good shape. When you get above 5%, you actually start to have damage happening to your bees, and above 10%, you're putting everybody else around you at risk, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And it just allows you to keep track of where you are. It also allows you to keep track of which colonies are doing better than other colonies, so you can figure out which ones you want more of. All right, so there's 2 ways to get 300 mites in here. One, 300 bees. Hopefully not 300 mites.
It'd be real
Not
trouble.
looking good, Terry. So what we're gonna do, so one option is you can take this and basically thump and shake all the bees in, and since we're going for nurse bees, they can't fly that well, and you can scoop them up and go like this. The other option is to take this and see how this has a little flat side on it, and you can kind of scoop up the side. So do you have a preference which one you see?
Whatever's easiest.
I usually like to scoop. So what I do, sorry, I'm gonna have to take it.
They want the screen and the lid.
All right, we're gonna get some teamwork here. All right, who wants to hold the jar? All right, so I'm gonna scoop, I'm gonna dump in there. Are you comfortable being cap person?
Cap guy? Cap
Okay,
guy.
who wants to do sugar?
Sugar, we need a sugar guy.
Sugar
Sugar's
guy?
sweet.
All right, you're gonna need a hive
Sweeter.
tool. And you're gonna put like 2 hardy hive tool.
That's kind of got, go in the pail. There's another high tool in that pail. That one's got oil, honey all over it.
All right, and what are we gonna check for first? Who do we
Queen.
not want to get in our
Yeah,
sample?
queen.
Yeah.
You want the queen
Here,
on
I'm gonna
sample?
turn it so people can see, I think,
Okay.
a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm gonna start below then, and I'm just gonna knock, this takes, the other thing too is you should actually start sampling now, even if you don't think you have a risk, because there is a learning curve. You just have to practice it like anything to get good. What you don't want to do is like roll over the bees and smash them, obviously, but so you're just kind of trying to like basically knock them off. So I'm just gently, gently, gently tapping them in. And see how easy that was?
That's 300?
That's about 300. So this is marked just below half a cup. It's actually 400 milliliters.
That's okay.
Is 300 bees. Yeah, get that in. All right, so we've got our 300 bees. We do want to make sure our jar is really dry. because the whole thing is to have the powdered sugar dust. We don't want to have powdered sugar frosting, which is delicious on carrot cake, not so good for dislodging bees.
More?
Well, here, use the hive tool to smash that in there. Really get that in there.
They're already getting pissed off.
And they don't really, they actually don't get angry, they get confused. And we'll dump them back in and they'll be totally fine.
They'll probably get licked up a lot.
They do. I mean, like, if you came in getting, you know, covered. Okay, so now what we do is we basically are rolling them around. Notice I'm not tipping this upside down so that the mites fall out. But I'm just rolling like this for 1 minute. Alright.
Megan, why aren't you being stung?
I asked them not to.
That works for you.
It's all prearranged.
Yeah, I mean, really.
No, but because I have done this process I do this all the time, and so I can trip them. If while you're learning, if you're smashing them, they don't enjoy that.
Okay.
And then they would
The
sing.
defense.
Technique.
Okay.
Yeah, but the other one works just as well, where you just shake them and thump, and then you can basically, like, if you shake them in here, which it does work a little better with medium frames if you use this particular tub, and then you could just tap them down like that, and you get a pile of bees in the bottom, and you just scoop them up and put those in, and then put the rest of the bees in there. And both of those are pretty fine.
So is it the powdered sugar or the heating up that actually causes the mites to fall?
I got
It's the
1 minute
combo.
now.
It's the heating up, and
Been
then
1 minute.
Is that a minute?
Yeah.
All right, you want to count for 2 minutes?
Sure.
So they're gonna sit there, and it's the combo. The mites are on there pretty good, and so it's the heating up and the rotating that makes them actually. Well, the rotating gets the sugar basically through all of the parts, and the heating up is what actually makes them fall off. And then the powdered sugar prevents them from coming back on. Yeah, because they're on the bees right now, and they're biting. So, since this colony superseded, it means it did have a break in the brood cycle, which means that they haven't been producing constantly all spring. What we've been seeing around the state is that most colonies that are just starting out, because we had that really slow spring, or that have swarmed, which we had lots of swarms this year because that honey swarm came really fast and caught everyone off guard, or if it's superseded or something like that, they're still at really low numbers. However, we have been seeing colonies that just built up and are booming. We've already seen some that are in the danger zone. So this is the time of year where it starts to get to be a problem.
And how often would you test?
So the ideal is to try to do about once a month. But in the fall, like where it gets really, really serious because you're trying to protect your winter bees, and when that's the time that the population's the most likely to be high, and you're at a higher risk of getting invaded from someone else's, you might want to do a little more, unless you're in the process of dealing with it already. So if you had something high and you're doing something to maintain it, then it might be, you wouldn't have to necessarily do once a month, but once a month or 4 times this summer is what you want to do. But if the once a month thing is nice, or if you go out every 2 weeks, like every other time that you go out, basically.
2 minutes is up.
2 minutes is up? All right, so who wants to be the shaker? All right, but do it like you mean it. All right, so he's gonna do that for a minute. No, you gotta go that hard. There you go. And it is, so that is actually a good, I mean, you can see he's earning it, but the idea is that,
Next.
yeah, you really don't want, I mean, the nice thing about this is that when you leave here, you know that you're okay. You know, you're not just hoping really, really hard that you're okay. You actually have an understanding of what your problem level is.
Megan, you're gonna look like a tennis pro after this.
Oh yeah. We're
One
actually,
forearm, one arm's gonna be like this, and there's gonna be a little whip you on.
just saying. And a minute feels like a long time. Keep it up. You can do it.
Come on, one more. Come on.
We're actually developing, so this grant that Carrie thankfully wrote a letter for last night that hopefully we'll get because it's due in like 2 days.
Got them little hand things coming out?
I hope not. Oh, no, yeah, I think that's actually, you're literally shaking the poop out of them. that happens. Alright. How are we at per time? Are we getting close?
It's been a minute, yeah.
Alright. So you can see, like, you really want to go that hard. So before we do the final reveal, we'll allow, and so these bees did get, probably could use a little powdered sugar, a little more. You can see they got a little frosting in there. There's just a bit of moisture in the jar. I mean, so they look a little rough. But you'll watch, and the bees will come up, and they're crawling back down in, and the bees will come up and clean them off, and they'll get it.
Limp. Dazed and confused. Wow, that was a sugar high.
So this is the only, when we're teaching, is the only time I actually want to see varroa mites. Alright. So what we're looking for is a tiny circular dot. So it's like little oblong shape, and it's cinnamon colored, and it's very round. I'll pass that around and see what you think.
I see one.
Can I see a whole bunch?
I got it all set up. but I didn't
Well,
wanna leave it open.
I'm gonna ruin the suspense. There are actually, I don't see any in here. Which one did you?
Good girls.
And my guess is probably because they did have, I mean, if they superseded, they had a full solid break in the
I
brood
think we're after the
cycle.
sugar.
However,
Loving
we also, so what happened is they had a big break in the
Sounds like a
brood
drill.
cycle, and then they have a period now where we're probably at the maximum number that are capped.
Yeah.
If we did this in about a week, it might be really, really interesting to see how different it is once all of those, because if you have a break in the brood cycle, there's a bunch of mites that are out crawling around. The second those are about to get capped, they're all gonna go in there. And so chances are it could be really interesting if we check again in a week. However, now we know that Terry does not have to take action on this hive immediately because of the danger of varroa mites.
Megan, with 6 or 10 hives, would you do every 2 or 3, or
The recommendation is to do all of them up to 8.
rotate them?
Oh, so if you have less than 8, to do all of them. Otherwise, to try to do. The idea is if you have more than 8 in a yard, and you do 8 and one of them's bad, then you would want to maybe take action. But if you do 8 and they're all at 0 or 1 or 2 mites, then you would could consider that fine, unless you had reason to believe that it was the one that didn't swarm or something like that.
Megan, would it hurt to just be preemptive and just treat whether you test or not?
I'm going to talk about that a lot tonight. So
Okay.
I'll tell you now. You just have to act interested later.
Wrapped.
So there are lots of schools of thought about this. One of the big issues with the varroa mite is that it becomes really, really problematic in the fall. And sometimes if you wait until you find out you have a problem and you're not absolutely prepared to deal with it and you don't have the resources on hand and you don't know exactly what you're going to do, a lot of times it's hard to get it under control in time.
Okay.
Where we are right now in this whole world of varroa is that pretty much every colony has varroa, and very few colonies are at a place where they can handle it on their own. So for every other disease, nobody recommends prophylactic treatment. So nobody recommends the fumigillin just all the time anymore, or the antibiotics all the time anymore. But with varroa mite, chances are it's in there and it's going to get to a damaging level unless something happens. Now, if it's swarmed, or if it's been this little itty bitty colony that has not been able to get clean right, or if you took 3 nukes out of it, or if it's had foul brood all summer, then chances are varroa is not your issue. But if you've got big healthy colonies, a lot of people are just automatically putting in a treatment just so, because otherwise it can. So last year what happened is people got caught, like a ton of people got caught just too late. By the time they found it, and by the time they found it was a problem, their winter bees were already damaged, basically. So that's the only one that you'll hear people say that this one's for where we are right now. Like hopefully 5 years from now it'll be under control, and you'll be like, oh, do you remember how terrible it was when we had to treat for varroa in the summer automatically? But that's where we are. But there's lots of ways that you can deal with it.
You don't see any in there?
I don't see any in there. You can pass it around if people want to see a dirty bucket with some water. But what you'd be looking for, so this speck on the side is about the size it would be.
Oh, okay.
And it's about, so it's bigger than a pepper flake. So you can definitely see them with your eyes. They're cinnamony colored. And the way that you can usually differentiate them is that they're very smooth edges. So most of the other things, like if pollen came off or a bee leg or something like that, it's going to be kind of rough or like a chunk. But the varroa mites are it's like a very nice oval with clean edges on it. I'm kind of disappointed.
Terry's not, yeah.
I know, it's the only time that I actually want to have varroa mites is when you're teaching a class. So.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We're running a tight ship here.
No, that's good. I'm glad.
I've got some couple miles from here.
Yeah. Should bring them in.
Excellent.
Does it matter where you take the sample from?
You want to take, so there's different schools of thought of this. There are some people that just take them from the top because it's easier, but then you would want to change your threshold maybe. So that threshold of 3%, which is 9 mites, because we took 300, so you would divide by 3. That threshold of 3% is really set on you taking it from the brood nest. So if you had your own system and you were like, well, if I take it from the top and I even see 1 mite, then maybe I would be concerned about it. So, and that threshold.
So you're
too,
saying split the two and take from there, or take off the top of your brood box?
I would say as long as you want to take it from a frame that has brood on it.
Oh, okay.
So as long, because what you're going for there is then you're most likely getting nurse bees.
Different stages of brooding.
Yeah.
That frame that we took it off of had eggs, larvae, and cap brood. The other side just had cap brood. The side we took it off of had every stage on it.
And the nice thing about the other stages is more that the nurse bees are on those because they're feeding the larvae. If you go on the cap side, there's usually only a couple bees because they just have to keep it slightly warm. So if you go on a side where there's mixed, you can usually get in one draw, a nice big sample of nurse bees on there.
Does anybody have that bee that we found?
Yeah.
Found a bee?
Yeah, check this out. There was a bunch. Well, I say a bunch. You can open it up.
Three or four.
There was 3 or 4. I don't know if they were just soaked in honey or.
Yeah, they look soaked.
The one just looks weird.
Yeah, they're just they're real
It's
black.
real
They're almost
bad.
black.
Was that in the top? Or was it in the
You want to open it up?
I think she's just,
over there?
I think they're just soaked in honey.
Blown up.